What's up, everyone? Azariel here for another episode of the Wrap Up Review Series, where I do unorganized, unorthodox, and unbiased reviewing. I know I haven't said that in like a long ass time, but it's still the same. It's the way that I've always done my reviews, and this is the series where I review games that I've recently finished. And in this episode, we're going to be reviewing Dragon's Crown for the PlayStation 3. Now, normally, what I would do in these videos is I would give you a bit of the storyline, talk about the game mechanics, then give you my dislikes and likes about the game. The thing is that the storyline in this game was so short, but it had some plot twists and moments in this game that if I told you a little bit, I would be telling you a lot. So I will do my best to try to keep that at a bare minimum because I don't want to spoil it because it's good and that's one of the stronger points in the game. But I'm going to get to that later. So, when you first start off with Dragon's Crown, well, first off, Dragon's Crown was a video game that was released in like early August, I believe August 6th, if I'm not mistaken. And it was created by Vanillaware and Atlas. And, you know, when Atlas put their stamp on a video game, in terms of illustration, in the graphics, Atlas always seems to have their shit up to par, and this game is no exception to the rule. So shout out to Vanillaware and Atlas for making this game like the way they did. I like the art style of the game. It's pretty damn good, and that needs to be said. So when you first start off with the game, you choose one of 6 characters to play as. There's a dwarf, a fighter, an elf, a wizard, a sorceress, or the character that I picked in Amazon. And you go throughout Highland, running through dungeons, earning gold, collecting treasure, finishing side quests, defeating bosses that range from giants, golems, chimeras, gazers, and even killer rabbits. And anybody who's played this game know that rabbit kicks ass. Hands down, that rabbit is one of the toughest bosses in this game. Period. And you'll be fooling yourself if you think that just because it's a rabbit, that rabbit won't do some damage to you. I nearly lost a couple times because of that damn rabbit. So, yeah, the rabbit kicks ass. So, after you pick which type of characters you want to use, you are introduced to different areas in the town, and you progress in the game in different. I completely kind of stumbled on that. But after you select which type of characters you want to use, or like which character you want to use, you're introduced to different areas in town. And as you progress in the game, different areas open up. You have the Canaan Temple, where you can pray, of course, for a price to gain boost for your score, which goes towards your experience. So like the higher the score, then the more experience that you will gain at the end of that dungeon run. There's life points that you can pray for to help you resurrect in the dungeon. Like when you die, that way you won't have to use gold in order to resurrect you or your allies. The amount of gold you earn after your next dungeon run. Also at the Canaan Temple, you can resurrect bones that you find in dungeons and, use them as allies. Use them as computer-controlled allies. And the more bones you get after each dungeon run, like the stronger the allies get. So that's something to be noted. Or you can choose to bury those bones for a chance to gain items. Now, any type of armor that you get from this, there are those items can't be repaired, so that's to be noted as well. And sometimes the items that you get from them aren't even worth holding on to, so it's just like free money. At least that's how I looked at it. So then you have the magic shop where you can go to buy potions, healing items, appraise items, sell unusable items, or you can get items repaired. You have Lucane's shop, who is a master wizard that you meet ways into the game. He has a shop where he sells you magic rings and runes that you use throughout the dungeons in order to activate magic spells that can heal you or that can find hidden treasure chests or hidden items and things like that. The Adventures Guild, where you can go to register side quests and upgrade your skills for your character by using skill points that you obtain from leveling up and completing side quests. The Castle, where you can go to meet the king, princess, and a guy who's supposed to be a knight. He's an asshole at first, but he turns out to be pretty cool in the end. And it's kind of fucked up what happens to him. But again, that's diving into the storyline. I don't want to spoil that. If I told you a little bit, I'm gonna have to tell you a lot because I just can't, I just can't speak on the storyline and then just, what I'm saying, like stop in the middle of it. It just wouldn't make any sense. But so I just rather not talk about the storyline and let you figure that out for yourself, and let you, what I'm saying, like just play through the game yourself and you can see what the storyline is like. It's good, but it's just short, as I've stated earlier. But you also have the stable, which is a place that you unlock ways into the game, and you also have the gate that you use in order to get to dungeons. Now, as you're going through these dungeons, you have a partner with you, like this partner thief, and his name is Rani, and he is the one that unlocks doors and chests in order for you to gain items, and you can progress into the dungeon. And the way that you get ready to do these things is that you have this cursor that you can move around, kind of like on like a laptop or something, that you move around by using the right analog stick. I'm trying to find my joystick. I can't. Oh, here it is. Yeah. So that you can just move around the little cursor by just moving around the right analog stick, and either by clicking down on R3 or by pressing L1. Yeah, right there. So let that focus. But yeah, that's how you get Renee to open up treasure chests and doors. Now, when you open up the chests, for one, it's important for you to know that some of these chests are kind of booby trapped. They are booby trapped, and they can cause like a lot of damage to you. So, one tip that I've learned from experience is that you need to stand back while like Renee opens up these chests, because if it's booby trapped, it can cause a lot of damage, but it's not going to do anything to him. So that's to be noted. But yeah, when you open up these chests, you get items in that rank from E to S, and sometimes, and you get different items depending on the character that you have, and depending on the rank, that determines the strength of the items. But it's a catch to it. The higher the rank, the lower the durability of the item. The items have some the items in this game, as far as like the armor, the accessories, they have durability in this game, and which means that they can only be used so much until that item breaks. And once it breaks, then you're going to have to go to the magic shop in order to get that item repaired. You go, wait, what the hell? So after you had, through these stages and defeating waves of enemies and bosses, you gain items based on the amount of chests you unlock and how well you did in that dungeon. So after you obtain, all these, well, after you, what I'm saying, like clear the stage, the Renee helps you to sort out, like the loot, and you can choose whether or not you want to keep the items. You can have them appraised, or saying, like you can sell the items. Like if the item's rank is like too low and you don't even want to bother with it, you can just sell it, make your money off of it, and there you go. But if you don't have enough gold in order to get the items appraised, you can always hold on to them, and you can just get them appraised later at the magic shop. So that's something to be noted. Also, one thing I forgot to mention is that when you're unlocking these chests in the dungeons, sometimes like this other thief will come and he will knock Rani out the way, and he will proceed to steal all the items that has dropped out the chest. So you want to make sure that you as soon as you see him, like really don't be fooled, because sometimes he'll come dressed in the same outfit that in the same colors that Rani has on. So it can be kind of tricky at first, but always swing at the thief, and if he doesn't get hit, then it's Rani. But if he does, start taking damage or whatever, then that's the enemy thief that you want to take out so you can get your items back. always make sure that you take out that enemy thief, because he can really, so like pick up items relatively quick, and he can dash out. You always want to make sure you want to beat him up. But yeah. So the combat of the game, it plays like the traditional Dungeons and Dragons games from like the arcades. It's like a side-scrolling beat 'em up mixed with like a leveling system, and you can earn new weapons, new accessories. You can equip some special abilities. Again, as you're in the Adventures Guild, you can use your skill points to level those skills up. And yeah, and as I mentioned before, like the graphics in this game are up to par, because Atlas put their stamp on it. They're like high resolution, uh, very good watercolored, hand drawn, well layered graphics, and there hasn't been one Atlas game in my memory that like the graphics were not up to par. So again, shout out to Atlas for putting their stamp on it in Vanillaware. So let me dive into my likes and my dislikes about the game, because this is going to tie into uh, the rest of the way like the game plays out. Um, so I want you to bear with me, as I'm going through this. Okay, here's what I liked about the game. First off, the game storyline is good. Even though it was short, it had some shock value to it. It had some sad points in it. It had people getting tricked. It had people dying. You know what I'm saying? Like, it had some nice plot twists in it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you can call what happened in the game plot twist, yeah, it's plot twist. It had some happy endings in it. No Asian whorehouse reference. My only complaint is that it was short. You know, it's a traditional side-scrolling, beat 'em up style of gameplay, which features with features in it that you rarely see in side-scrolling beat 'em ups, and it's nostalgic for those who have played side-scrolling beat 'em ups similar to this in the arcades. It's fun, but then it starts to go on the decline for a number of reasons. Basically, because it goes from good to bad to worse, and to be more specific, it goes from this looks nice, I'm liking this. This is getting repetitive. This is getting boring. What the fuck? What the fuck? Fuck this shit. And that's exactly how it goes. It goes from good to bad to worse. And the first taste of this are, and the first taste of this is what are supposed to be the last 9 dungeon runs in the game, for these 9 talismans that you have to get in order to defeat the final boss. You know what I'm saying? The ancient dragon. Now, let me explain. I want you to bear with me. Now, prior to what are supposed to be the last 9 dungeon runs in the game, you have to go through the gate, which is in front of town, which is basically a portal that you get to pick and choose where you want to go, like which dungeon you want to travel to. Well, after you reach this point in the game that I'm talking about, you find out that the gate is all of a sudden all out of whack, and now it randomly sends you to a dungeon. But then that's when the stable opens up, where you can go and you can use the horses at the stable to pick and choose which dungeon you want to go to for a price, of course. So if you're doing like side quests, or you're trying to collect the 9 talismans, in a hurry, just know that you're gonna have to use the horses at the stable. But it does get increasingly expensive with each talisman that you get, and therefore, last time I checked, it cost me like 15,000 just for me to rent horses in order for me to go to and it just gets increasingly expensive. But after a while, like, the gold isn't a problem, but like early on, it really starts to become like a huge, like it really starts to burn out your wallet. So you really gotta be careful as to how many times you use that stable at first, because you don't want to, what I'm saying, have to worry about, like, your gold running low or what have you. And yeah. And so like just forgive that squeaking that you may hear in the background. So like that's this chair I'm sitting in. But yeah. But it gets increasingly expensive with each talisman that you get. But that's just a part. But that part of the game, that's when the game really comes to a halt. And this is when they supposedly like most of your gameplay hours gets like invested in. Well, like basically at this point in the game, like this is when you get most of your gameplay hours, because like you're gonna have to do the side quests in order to earn your money, in order to get more skill points, in order for you to upgrade your skills, because like you're gonna need to do that in order to even stand a chance against the monsters. So it's nearly mandatory for you to do side content in this game. Nearly mandatory for you to do side content. That doesn't even sound correctly. It's side content. It's content that you do on the side. It's supposed to be optional, but it's kind of mandatory for you to do the optional content. And that's kind of silly when you think about it, but it is what it is. And otherwise, like you won't be strong enough to handle the monsters in the game. So yeah. Now keep this in mind though, because the game does have a leveling system, and it's nearly mandatory for you to do side content in order for you to level up quick enough, so that you won't be grinding for these insane amount of hours, because that's going to be something that I also touch on in a little bit. Now I want again keep that in mind, because this is going to lead to my biggest negative about this game. Now after you beat the game for the first time, you find out that the statue in Canaan Temple is restored, and it's the goddess Althena, and she tells you that the ancient dragon that you defeated, that wasn't the only ancient dragon that had been revived. And in order to strengthen that barrier around where the ancient dragons are, she's going to need help from the goddess Julia, which is like one of the other statues that are next to her. And which is, like another broken statue next to her. And in order to restore it, not only will you have to go and collect 9 more talismans, but you're going to have to do the game on hard difficulty, and they raise the level cap from 35 to 65. And you also like unlock the Coliseum, which is like player versus player, and you unlock this other thing, so like called the Labyrinth of Chaos. Which is like a survival dungeon that has 10 floors. You know what I'm saying? And in each dungeon has like elements from every dungeon that you played up until that point. Now each floor is like one large mix and match clusterfuck of every dungeon that you've been through. Also, after you beat the game for the first time, as I've said already, either if you reach level 35 first, or if you beat the game first, like you notice that the game has a level cap depending on the difficulty that it's set to. And that's how well you will level up. For example, so let's say if you play the game on normal, like when you level up your attack goes up by say like 1. But if you play the game on like a higher difficulty, then like hard, then your attack will go up say like by 3. So basically, like the higher the difficulty is in the game, that's how well you will level up. So basically, it's really like the higher the difficulty, then the more your stats will increase as you level up. So now back to this Labyrinth of Chaos. Now the first 3 floors of the Labyrinth of Chaos, you can play those on normal difficulty. Now that's just the first 3. From floors 4 to 10, to my knowledge, you have to play those on whatever difficulty comes after hard difficulty, and I think it's like Inferno or something. Now I don't know because I didn't bother to find out, but here's the problem. I can understand having to play a game on a different difficulty settings, like in order to get more out the game, in order to get more, rewarded for your efforts, because in the Labyrinth of Chaos, for each floor you get like an item, and these are supposed to be like the 10 best items in the game or whatever. So like for your character to get. And I can understand having to play a game on a harder difficulty in order to earn like the best items or whatever. But to have such a difficulty jump from normal to whatever it is come after hard difficulty, it's kind of fucking stupid when you think about that. Not only that, but in order for you to compete with the monsters on hard mode, you have to do a ridiculous amount of grinding. Mind you, now some people might say, well, someone like, why don't you just use, like the side quest? Like the side quest gives you, basically like a full level worth of experience, but there's only 50 side quests in the game, and you're pretty much going to use those just trying to, well, like just doing like the first two runs of the game. Like those side quests are really just going to burn out like that, and you're not going to be able to rely on them anymore, and you're pretty much going to be solo, doing the side quest. And you're going to have to resort to a ridiculous amount of grinding. Like you're going to have to use your gold to try to increase your score, and you're going to do all these fucking mathematical problems and algebra equations in order to figure out how much experience you're going to get. It's really just a hassle. And like the way that they made this game is like you're going to have to, in order to compete with the monsters on hard mode alone, I'm not talking about the modes that come after hard, just on hard mode alone, you're going to have to compete. In order to compete with those monsters, you're going to have to do a ridiculous amount of grinding. And this is that. Now, I'm not talking about that typical, like JRPG grinding, like whereas there's these monsters and like there's like only like 30 minutes to like an hour of grinding that you have to do, or even in sometimes like, so like 2 to 3 hours in the game. But that's what it is with any game that has like a leveling system. If there's a, some place where you can go to grind, that's what you're going to have to do. But in this game, you have to do so much of it that you really gonna have to stop everything that you're doing, and you're really just gonna have to focus on that. Like you can't have a life outside of this game. Like you would literally have to sit in front of your TV non-stop for like an endless amount of hours just to get to a level that you can compete with the monsters, on hard mode alone. Now, this is just for hard difficulty, so you can only imagine what you have to do for the levels that come after hard difficulty. It's like for grinding, you know what I mean? Like, you can only imagine what the grinding is like for the modes that come after hard difficulty. On top of that, the talismans don't transfer when you switch difficulty levels. Now, let me explain. When you beat the game for the first time, you gain, like a different difficulty. And you can go to the Canaan Temple and you can, pray at the altar for free. And you can, so like change the difficulty from normal to hard or whatever, like for free. So that's good that they don't charge you for that. But again, the problem comes in with those 9 talismans and you having to grind in order to compete with the monsters on hard mode. The talismans don't transfer, so it's not like you can go collect all the talismans on normal mode and then you can switch to hard mode and then you can have all those talismans. No, you have to collect all the talismans on hard mode. So let me get this straight. I can't gain the talismans on normal mode. I have to do a ridiculous amount of grinding on my own just to get to a level where I can compete with the monsters on hard difficulty. It's a pain in the ass just to get all the talismans as it is. I gotta spend all this money in order for me to go to the horse's stable in order for me to go exactly where I want to go in order to complete these quests, these side quests. In this labyrinth of chaos where I'm supposed to be able to get the best items in the game, it's such a jump from normal to whatever comes after hard. Like they're kind of forcing you, if you're going to get those items, you're going to have to play hard mode. So you're really going to have to grind to get your levels up, and that's just ridiculous. A difficulty level is always supposed to be like an option in a video game. You should never have it to where you have to play the game on a higher level difficulty in order to get, like the rest of the game, storyline or whatever. You know what I mean? Like they are wrong for that. They're basically forcing your hand Like, okay, so if you're gonna play this game, you're gonna have to sit down and you're gonna have to grind and do this ridiculous amount of grinding in order to get your levels up, and in order for you to, so you can, you know what I'm saying, increase your stats to where you can to where you can compete with the monsters on hard mode alone. So again, if you got to do that much for hard mode, imagine what you have to do for the levels. You know what I'm saying, for the harder difficulties after hard. You know what I mean? It's just fucking ridiculous. And you know, it's one of those things where it's just like, what the fuck were they thinking? What they thinking? They didn't, like, it's some low points in this game, man. That okay, so like the storyline is good. The grinding is really where the major problem comes in, because it's such a jump in like normal to hard that it's just like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And that's exactly what caused me to just to stop playing this game. And I'm not by myself. Last time I checked, nobody has finished this game. I've looked at multiple playthroughs. I look at multiple, you know, independent reviews on, like, you know, websites like GameFAQs, um, and what have you. And from what I've seen, nobody has actually finished this game because it's so repetitive, it gets boring, and then people just stop playing it. You know, like the Coliseum, I don't think nobody even bothers with that. That is just like some player versus player thing, and the amount of grinding you have to do in this game, it's just painful. It's really painful, and unless you're a person that just really, really likes this style, and you know, then by all means. But let's be honest, this game, it's boring. It gets repetitive, you know, really quick. It gets, you know, again, boring, and I don't know if anybody else, you know, after that first run of the game, you know, after that first, like, after you beat the Ancient Dragon for the first time, and you find out all the bullshit that you have to deal with in order to compete with the game on hard mode, I don't know if anybody else is going to really want to bother to finish it at that point. You know, because like I said, as of right now, last time I checked, nobody has completed this game. Nobody has even bothered with completing the rest of the game because it really doesn't feel worth it. You know, you have to literally not have a life in order for you to finish this, and it's stupid. So they dropped the ball on that. Um, you know, and it's crazy because it took them nearly $1 million to make this game, and you would think that, you know, the combat and like certain things would be better than they are. It's kind of like they invested the majority of their money into like the artwork and whatever, and whatever. Man, I sound so country when I said that. In the game's artwork, you know, they invested all this money in the game's artwork, but they didn't even bother to pay attention to like the monsters, you know, on like the various levels in the game, and the amount of grinding that you had to do. Because, like I said, like, you really would have to like a game like this in order to just, something like buckle down and, you know, do all that grinding in order to compete with the monsters that's on said difficulty. But if you like it, by all means, like, this game, in my opinion, it's worth the rent. It's worth the rent. The only reason why I bought this game was because, you know, it came with an art book, and let me show you guys. Reach for here. Show you guys the art, like all the illustration in the game. It's actually pretty damn good. Like the art books, and anytime a game comes out with like an art book for like the and all of that, let me hold it back here. Hold it back here, and you guys can see. Hopefully, like, my hand isn't in the way, but you can see like the art in this game is pretty good. And I like collecting art books like this because I'm in school for, like, you know, for art. I'm attending the Art Institute of Pittsburgh right now, and you know, I can really take inspiration from art books and illustration like that. So that's pretty much why I like to collect the art books and things like that. But in all honesty, like, this game is really worth the rent. It's a 6 out of 10 for me. You know, I don't see how Tom from fucking Toonami gave this game a fucking 8 out of 10. I really don't. Tom from Toonami, I was watching it, you know, last week. He gave this game an 8 out of 10. What the hell, Tom? Come on, Tom. You don't even believe this game is an 8 out of 10 for real, do you? This game is slightly above average, and the amount of ridiculousness that you have to invest in this game in order to get, you know, so little in return. You're basically just replaying the same thing over and over again. They don't add anything. You know, of course, when you got, you know, so like when you get the missions for like the, well, when you are at that section in the game where there's like the last 9 talismans, they do give you like option A and B roads to take, and the option B roads are like new bosses, and that's the roads that, and that's the options, that's the optional paths that you have to take in each of the dungeons in order to gain the talismans. But yeah, man, it's really worth the rent. It's not all that too, you know, interesting. It gets bored really quick, and like I said, to my knowledge, as of right now, nobody's completed the full entirety of the game. They only played it that one time, and that was it. And you know, I've tried to deal with it. You know, you guys see my playthrough. If not, go watch it. I've dealt with it, and it's just ridiculous. It's a 6 out of 10 for me. You know, so again, like the game is worth the rent. I wouldn't buy it. You know, I pre-ordered it in order for me to get the art book because I like the art books. But like, as far as like the game itself, it's a 6 out of 10. It's above average because you do get some gameplay out of it. Like the plot and the game storyline, it's good. Like again, there's some pretty good points in the game storyline that I feel like really makes the game worth, you know, like a 6 out of 10, as well as like the gameplay of it. But like the game is not an 8 out of 10. It's not that damn good. It's a 6 out of 10. In all honesty, I can't give this game like a high score like 8 out of 10. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not that, you know what I'm saying, great. The graphics are up to par. The, even though the storyline was short, it's good, but it's not an 8 out of 10. It's a 6 out of 10. In all honesty, in my opinion, in my honest opinion, it's a 6 out of 10. But yeah, so that's it. I finally did the Dragon's Crown wrap-up review. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Seriously, because it took me a minute to, you know, get everything out the way before I can do this. But I like to give people my opinions, my honest opinions on the game, and you guys can see my playthrough again, and you can see everything that I went through, and I'm telling the truth about it. So it's not like I'm just making any of this up, you know. But you can't make a game like this and expect people not to have all these negative feelings towards it. Again, last time I checked, people haven't even bothered to finish the game, and yeah. So that's it, man. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, peace.